Welcome to Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed. Get ready to dive into the world of nonprofits, where the nerdy passion and unstoppable dedication of those making a real impact is celebrated. Together with your host, Jarrett Ransom, the inspiring stories and game-changing strategies of nonprofit leaders will be explored. Join us to unravel the mysteries of successful fundraising, uncover the secrets to effective advocacy, and nerd out over innovative approaches to solving social challenges. Nonprofit Nerd Impact Unleashed is your go-to podcast for no-nonsense discussions with real-life superheroes of the nonprofit sector. Get ready to unleash your inner nerdiness and discover or rediscover how to change the world together. Now let's dive in and embrace the power of our nerdy side.
Welcome back, friends. I want to welcome today's guest, Mr. Ken Miller. I first met Ken. In fact, we were at a conference. It was for Cultivate Fundraising Academy at National University in San Diego a couple of years ago, and Ken was their keynote speaker. Our paths have crossed since then, of course, online, but most recently at another conference in Florida. You know, I always find myself that a lot of what Ken shares is very insightful, or that's how I see it. And I think you might find that to be true for you as well. During our conversation, Ken shared openly and personally about his life and how he navigates the demands between both that personal and professional commitment. So a shout out, of course, to this season's sponsor. Thank you, Nonprofits HQ, as well as Chazen and Company. And without further delay, please enjoy what Ken Miller shares with us today. Well, hey there, Ken. I am so thrilled to have you here. You know, when I think of how we met, I'm so very grateful that we've had a couple of in-person meetings. One was in San Diego, and most recently we saw each other in Florida. So welcome to these conversations. I'm thrilled to have you.
And I'm likewise thrilled to be on this podcast and the opportunity to speak with you again and to share my truth.
Share your truth. Let's do it. Well, I always like to start these conversations with really asking a question. And this question can be taken in a lot of different ways, but I'm always looking really for that personal dynamic, which I do believe sets this conversation apart from so many other conversations happening, podcast wise, but in our nonprofit sector as well. So I like to ask the question, Ken, what are the names that you go by?
That's a great question. Depending on who's speaking to me and where they're at that day. But, you know, the names I go by are husband, mentor, coach, friend, president. I own 3 companies. So I go by different names depending on what hat I'm wearing and the individual that I'm speaking to. But if I had any name, I would just like to be called Ken or friend.
Yeah, our friend. Well, and one thing that really stood out to me when we saw each other in Florida, you had shared, and you already alluded to this, like how many hats you wear, but you had shared the amount of volunteerism you have given, have done, have provided. That just blew me away. And you also helped to shift my thinking on this when we're asked from a professional standpoint to present, speak. Sometimes they're not asking us that. They're asking us to be of service through that volunteer lens. So that was a big takeaway that I learned from you and wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you. It's a function of not saying no or not now over a length of time. So over a period of 10 to 15 years, I just kept saying yes. I thought that was a script that I had built into myself, which was detrimental to my well-being and or balance in my life. But I thought if a nonprofit, I'm in the nonprofit world, we're in the nonprofit sphere, that if they asked me, I had to say yes. That was built in. I did not have to, and I've learned since that I do not have to. Yeah. As you know, in July of this year, I had 52 volunteer commitments, 52 different volunteer commitments, 23 organizations and 29 individuals. And it was too much. And I made a decision with council to cut back. And I've cut that from 52 to 8. So I have 8 individuals that I still mentor. That's a passion of mine.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And I appreciate your, I'm going to say, the data that you have to back up the
Mhm.
decision. I fell into that too, Ken. Autopilot, right? How can I be of service? How can I do more for my community and for others? And that gets our hats really stacked pretty darn high. So I'm going to ask you, right? Like, how many hats do you wear? What are those hats? What do they look like? What roles do they include?
I was thinking about that. And, I probably wear 4 hats, 4 major hats. The number one hat is, I would say, a child of God. That's my number one hat. And that's the way I carry myself. And that's how I relate to the world as a child of God. I'm a spiritual, I'm a religious person. And so that's my number one hat. And that like overrides or supersedes all the specific ones in the temporal world. My number 2 hat is husband, period. Husband. I'm a husband to my wife, and therefore I have to make decisions based on that. And also in my relationships with my wife, it's special. And therefore, I will wear that hat. Number 3 hat is I run 3 businesses. And so I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm the president of 3 companies. I'm also a mentor, the hat I wear, and I still mentor 8 men. I went down from 28 to 8, but I have 8 men that I regularly, explicitly mentor. I'm also a coach. So I coach, whether it's through the business, but that's a term or a hat I wear is called coach. And then I'm an author. And so I write books, and I wear that hat. I try to do that irregularly, but I wear that hat also.
Yeah, that is amazing. And thanks for sharing, because I do find in our sector, and probably in the majority of sectors, we're all doing so very much. We always talk about these hats that we wear,
Mm.
which begs the question, how do you handle it all? And really, coming from that place of there's a lot of personal commitments. You've got faith, spiritual commitments, you've got
Mhm.
personal commitments, professional commitments. So what does that look like for you, Ken? And especially for all of the listeners, I love hearing from so many different, and I use this term affectionately, nonprofit nerds that are
Mhm.
really coming in this space. How are you finding your tools and your resources to handle all of the things?
Well, it's tactical and it's strategic. Strategic, we'll start with that because that's the overall overarching. Overarching, my favorite word, probably other than God, is order. I love order. And so I'm very ordered and I'm very organized. It's the only way I can do what I do and
Mhm.
successfully do what I do, because you can unsuccessfully do it. So I'm ordered. So, and I'm an early riser. So I was in the office at 6 a.m. this morning, and I'll be here till about 4, maybe 5 at the latest. And what I do is I'm a list person. I am a spreadsheet person. I am a dashboard person. I am a checklist manifesto aficionado. So I work through all those because I'm very much tactical and action oriented. And then I compartmentalize, my work. Again, I have certain time that I do X, and there's certain times that I'll do other things. And I'm, again, very ordered. Outlook is my probably my greatest friend. And then I'm very ordered in my email. I'm an empty email box person. There's 2
Okay.
different ways to do email, and I'm very much an empty email person. So my inbox, I look at my email irregularly, but regularly, but irregularly. I don't have a specific time, and then I make a decision, literally in 2 seconds, which is respond later or delete. That's it. Or I call follow up is my later. And so I have an empty email inbox almost at all times. And then the other thing is I have virtual assistant. So my virtual assistant is and that's something new that's phenomenal. And then I use AI. I'm very much invested in AI.
Yes, absolutely. I love this. Remind me again. So respond, follow up, delete. Were those the three for your email?
That's it. That's
Okay.
all three.
How did you get to that point? Were you just like, as soon as you on email, whenever email came into our world, I forget when that was, but like, was it like, this is automatic, this is what I'm going to do? Or was this a process to get up to those three options?
Automatic. Day
Automatic.
one. Day one.
Wow.
And it's again, it's a style of thinking. I'm a very discreet, analytical person.
Okay.
And because I'm discreet, everything is quote unquote a task that's not in the, let's say, spiritual realm. Okay. And therefore, an email is a task. And what I've learned to do is number one is make quick decisions. And you can Think and Grow Rich has a whole chapter on decisions. And what they state in there is to make decisions quickly. And I'm a big one on that. So I make the decision, but it may be follow up, but I have very few in follow up. It's usually respond right at that moment because all it has to do is with time. Then the times are really three times. Present, I'm going to respond. Future, I'm going to put in follow up. Past, I'm deleting because I've looked at the information. Nothing I'm going to deal with. It's past. Bye. And then we move on. And therefore, what it does, it literally, again, it gives me order because I know my inbox. I may have 6 follow-ups, per day or 10 follow-ups. And it'll take me a little longer to do those. This is another trick that I've learned. And because it works for my type of thinking. When I say my type of thinking, there are individuals who will listen to this who think the same way. There are other individuals who may be more in the feeling arts, that side of the brain that this would not work for. But one of the things that I do is when I make my list, I look at the list and I say, which are the items that take the least amount of time? And I do those first. Not the most important. I do the items that will be done the quickest. Because what I've realized over time, I've been in business for 40 years, is that each item, whether it takes me 1 minute or it takes me 2 hours to do, is connected to a person. And that person doesn't know that they're just a 5-minute job or that they're a 3-hour job. All they know is I'm waiting to hear back or waiting for the response or the accomplishment of the task. And what it also does is I have 10 items. I get rid of in a half hour, 45 minutes. I've taken care of 7 of them. Now I got 3 chunks and I will work on those chunks, but they will get done in time. And
so that's fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating to me too. I talk a little bit about boulders and pebbles and sand, and the boulders are really those larger projects. It's going to take probably hours to do them. And it's fascinating. I keep using this word, but it's like to hear what you do, to know what I do, to hear what other people do. Some people will say, just like you did, Ken, like I'm going to take the ones that I know I can check off pretty quickly. I've got lists as well, right? And I don't know. For me, I don't approach every day the same. So some days I might go for the boulders, some day I might go for the sand. But what I'm hearing for you is you are consistent with what are the things that I can do most quickly, if that's the right correct grammar, and then and then moving to the next ones. I love to hear that because you're right. Some listeners will resonate with that and say, absolutely. I was also trained where it's like, touch your email or touch your projects as few times as you possibly can to build in efficiency. And it sounds like that's also part of your process.
Yes. So when we talk about the boulders or the larger projects, what I do is I look at that larger project and then I allocate that time usually in Outlook.
Okay.
We're talking about a 2-hour, 4-hour, 8-hour chunk. And I do not take any type of interruptions. I'm focused.
Just,
right? Just on that. It's in my calendar. And I'm not going to look at my email. My phone is off. Literally, it's off. And I just focus on, and I get it done. Again, I'm about checking the box. And again, because the difficulty, if you have 10 and you work on just the boulders, then you had 10 on Monday. You got maybe 1 boulder done and you got 9 items left. The next day you pick up another 10 Now you have 19 and you deal with another one or two boulders. Now you're down to 17 and it builds up. And those individuals that are connected with the smaller one, and I'm not saying that I'm right and you're wrong or whoever is listening. All I'm saying, this works for me. I am very efficient, but I'm only efficient to be effective. That's real important that you understand the difference between those words, efficiency and effective. My goal is to be effective. This is one of the tools I use is to be efficient with my time and resources.
Great. Yeah. And thank you for that. For me, when I get to adding another 10 boulders or 20 boulders, right? And that list keeps going on. I'm on the brink of burnout. I'm on the brink of overwhelm. I need some self-care. I need some relaxation, which takes us to this question, Ken. What are some of the things that you go to replenish yourself, to take care of yourself, to relax? What are those things that work for you?
I read. I read nonfiction, big
Okay.
nonfiction reader. Um, I just, I write down every book I read, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And
Pen, paper, email, what does that look like?
I have a spreadsheet. You know, I got a
Okay. Back to
spreadsheet.
the spreadsheet. Yep.
I have a spreadsheet. I just, last year, I read my 10,000 book. Okay. Yeah, which is a lot. And I have it
That's a
all in
lot.
this spreadsheet. Um, and what I attempt to do is I enjoy that. Okay, the way you understand. I'll do music. I love music. I love music. I love music. Again, talking about in the soul. I also love, I can't say love, I watch TV. So I'm doing Top Boy, which is a show out of England, which is, I can believe is awesome. And then what I do for fun, if I just want to zone out, I watch Korean zombie movies. That's my love. I just love, I've watched probably 15, 20 of them. And there's a whole sub-genre of Korean zombie movies. And they're all made in Korea.
Yeah.
And they're great. Kingdom, I can just go down the line. There's a whole bunch of them. But
That's new to me. I'm going to have to check these out. Where do you find them?
Netflix, Amazon
Netflix.
Prime. Yeah,
Okay.
just look up. There's one called Kingdom, which was phenomenal. Probably
Okay.
the best rated one. But I Train to Busan. I mean, I could just go down the line. There's just so many of them.
Oh, okay. I'm adding this to my list because I love, again, affectionately talking to other nonprofit nerds. Like, what are those things that you go to? What are the things that, fill up your cup? And it's everything, right? From going to national parks to now
Mhm.
Korean zombie movies.
And my other one, if for the real relaxation, and I'll tell you a little secret here that very few people know.
Yeah.
I did my first out of office ever in my life 2 weeks ago. Went to Hawaii and did an out of office. I've never done an out of office. Never
Right.
turned off the phone and never turned off my email.
Mm.
Or just said, hey, I'm going out of town. I'm going on vacation. But I did. We went to the Big Island. We, if the first, for those that can see the view that you see in the background is Ecuador. That's a house we built on the beach in Ecuador, on the equator in South America. And that's our new go away place. And then, of course, we do a lot of Hawaii and the Caribbean. My
Yeah.
wife loves beaches. She loves beaches. And
Very
so
nice.
that's what we really do. And I'm trying to learn to do it even better.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, congrats on that out of office. And yes, to what Ken just said, if you're listening to this, check out the YouTube. You can see this beautiful Ecuador. Um, Gosh, it's a sunset, I'm thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
The
just,
ocean.
yeah, beautiful ocean behind you. So it sounds like these movies, the reading, that's also part of your fun, right? Is
Mhm.
that kind of classified as both? And then you just shared about a vacation. So I love hearing that as well. What are some other things that you do, Ken, to manage your overall well-being? What are some of the tools and resources that support you?
Number one would be prayer. Number two would be counsel. So I have three mentors. I have three mentors.
Right.
I mentor 8 men. I've set up groups of Black men mentoring Black men. Okay. So I have like 4 generations. It's called Pass It On. you came to my Facebook page, you would see my mentors, and they have mentors now, or mentees, excuse me. So I mentor. I'm in the recovery rooms. So the initials that we know and love, I'm in those rooms. I just celebrated 20 years clean and sober. So thank you, in September 23rd. So that has always grounds me. Church, prayer, meditation. Those are the things that allow me to have well-being. Let me say this to you, Jarrett, and for those who are listening. I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful life. And I'm very, very grateful of the life I have because my life wasn't beautiful for many years. Just a real quick version. I was homeless for 20 years. Homeless on the streets as a street addict and alcoholic. I've also been to prison 3 times. I'm a 3-time convicted felon, spent years behind bars. I am very, very grateful for what you see behind me, my beautiful wife, my friends, my sponsees, mentees, and those that care and love me. And in return, I love them.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Ken, because I've known bits and pieces of your story, not the full extent to what you just shared. And thank you, because I know that hearing it from you so openly, vulnerably, you have lived experiences that others will resonate with, others cannot fathom, perhaps. But hearing this and to see your life, to see how you show up day in and day out for God, for yourself, for others. A little bit of a twist of a question, but I just want to ask because I keep hearing I don't want to call it rumor mills, but like I hear from mainly executives, like getting a coach or finding a mentor means that we're not doing something well enough, right? Like we're having to seek out a leader, a coach, a mentor, because it is kind of like a corrective offering, whether it's from their supervisor, maybe their board chair. I'm not hearing that with you. And I have to say too, Ken, that is not my take on a mentor, a coach. I also have that, right? Like I coach others. I'm also coached. I'm a big believer. Can you speak to that? Because I'm really curious how. And I hear myself kind of talking in circles, but what I'm curious about is when you mentor these guys and when you find a mentor for yourself, what is the purpose behind that?
So I've been teaching classes on this for 15 years. I've presented all over the country on the subject of coaching, mentoring, and workplace sponsorship. I'm not going to talk about workplace sponsorship. That's another aspect. Coaching is paid, mentoring is free. And if you have a mentor that's charging you, it's not a mentor, it's a coach. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I have one goal. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've mentored probably 60, 70 men total. I work directly with 8, but I was up to almost 30 of them. And I'm talking about met with them regularly and I mentored them. But I have one goal when I mentor, and one goal alone. My goal is to engender your dreams. That's it. Engender your dreams. We'll do a lot more. But when I sit down with all the men that I work with, what's your dream? And then I tell them, because this is very important that I say this. I say to them, I give you permission to dream. And I'm going to sit here and drink my coffee, take your time, and then share with me your dream. And then I shut up. But that's what I do. I engender. I introduce them to people, I give them information, and I support them emotionally as a journey. I've been working with some guys coming up on 13, 14 years. It's open-ended. It's open-ended. But that's mentoring. Coaching is a whole nother thing. I can go into coaching. I teach classes on this. But the key component is I have your best interest in my heart. And this is another thing that took me a few years. But Jarrett, I look Black men, because I work with Black men, predominantly really men of color, because I have some, like a Puerto Rican and a few other different ones. But I look them in the eye and I tell them this, I love you. And I mean it. It's not the same way I love my wife, but I love you. And it took me years for a Black man from the streets and the penitentiary to look another man in the eyes and sincerely say, I love you. And I do. Right. And I manifest it by my actions for your benefit. And then we begin the journey.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Oh my gosh, our time is flying by, but I want to keep us because I am so invested in this conversation. Let me ask you this, Ken, because when people are listening to this, it's sometime between December and February 2025. So we have the holiday mix, we've got the New Year mix. Any words of wisdom and advice you'd like to leave our listeners with today, knowing that this is a very busy time of anyone's year. You've shared so many great nuggets of information. You've shown up very vulnerably. And I, again, thank you for that. It means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to our listeners. What would you share with people right now, knowing it's sometime between December 24 and February 25, looking ahead at the new year?
What I would share with them, your results, because we're in the fundraising field, it's not who you are. Your results are not who you are. Whether you got 150% of your goal, or if you got 75% of your annual campaign goal or major gift goal, whatever, that's not who you are. Who you are is your relationship with self and your spiritual entity. That's who you are. It's your state of being. So one of the things is be gentle with self, allow grace, space in your relationship with what you do and who you are. Make sure we look at those. Remain in gratitude and do for others. And to do for others, get outside of self. Because a lot of times when we're in pain, it's about self. So those are just a few. I could take the next half hour and give suggestions of things that work for me. I'm some result of a lot of good decisions that I've made in my life, especially in the last 15 years. But the results are there. It just gives me pleasure to be able to share with you and your audience. It works. So many times we come in with our problems, our setbacks, and I'm coming to you with my triumphs. And my triumphs is the person I am. It's not the businesses that I have. It's not the new house in Ecuador. It's not the accoutrements of success. It's who I am when I lay my head down on that pillow. I like me. And there's people who like me. And I couldn't ask for more than that.
Yeah, thank you. I like you. And I also know so many of our listeners are going to say, I like Ken too. How can I connect with him? Maybe they're interested in the mentorship that you have created. Where's the best place for people to find you, Ken Miller?
LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn, Ken Miller 84. Okay. That's my tag. That, or go to my website, or just go to the website, Ken Miller Speaks. It's my new company that I do my speaking. And then there's another one, DenaliFSP.com is my company that does grant and fundraising consulting.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Ken, for joining. And I always wish these conversations were longer. They're meant to plant some seeds, get some people thinking differently. And again, thanks for everything you've shared and joining me for today's conversation.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.